Hello, and welcome back to Agritecture's travel-free digital conference series. My name is Eric Roth, and I am a CEA operations specialist with Agritecture. And with me today, we have Jesse Rosenbluth, who works in business development and technical services with Omni Ecosystems. And he's going to tell us a little bit today about their multi-dimensional approach to designing green roofs. And I must say that he is our first interviewee that had to reschedule because he had coronavirus symptoms. So let's give an extra virtual round of applause for Jesse for being here. Glad to see you're doing better, Jesse. Thank you so much.
Much appreciated. Glad to be able to rebound and join back the working world in this new kind of world we live in.
Excellent. All right, so whenever you're ready, you can share your screen and let's get it started.
All right. So firstly, a big thanks to Eric and the Agritecture team for hosting this virtual conference series. It's really wonderful to hear about all these ideas and learn about these really impressive endeavors to create a more vibrant and responsive urban food network. As Eric mentioned, my name is Jesse Rosenbluth, and myself, along with the entire Omni Ecosystems team, works on creating solutions for ecosystem design, implementation, and management, primarily through the application of our lightweight media and the creation of green roofs. So as a quick introduction, we view green roofs as working landscapes. To us, what that means is that from the onset of any project, we want to embrace the full spectrum of functions that a landscape can offer as part of the design process, so that it not only functions in those capacities, but really thrives because of them. So green roofs, in addition to providing natural beauty, can provide a multitude of functions, from managing stormwater, urban heat and air pollution, to creating habitats for pollinators and crops, as well as providing spaces for people, placemaking opportunities. And if you approach a project with those functions in mind, you improve resiliency within the built environment and enable healthier and happier communities. This multidimensional approach to ecosystem design, implementation, and management leverages new technologies. And for us in particular, that's optimized engineered growing media. This allows for innovative business models to emerge in order to adapt to and mitigate climate change. So we manufacture an optimized engineered growing media that addresses the unique obstacles that living or green infrastructure faces in the urban environment. This is ultra lightweight growing media for going on structure that has high stormwater retention, meets wind uplift standards, and supports resilient long-term plant communities. It also addresses the unique physical, chemical, and biological considerations necessary for sustained life in these often hostile environments. So it has a high infiltration rate, a low coefficient of runoff, high void space, and specified biological components that support in situ nutrient cycling. So it doesn't have to rely on large amounts of organic matter or chemical fertilizers that might lead to subsidence, nutrient leaching, and drainage issues in these specific applications. So now what this means for green roofs is an evolution of the technology. Now, traditionally, green roofs have been put in two different buckets: extensive and intensive green roofs. Extensive being lightweight, 10 to 35 pounds per square foot, supporting sedum systems, and intensive, often 50 pounds per square foot plus, with trees, lawns, native plants, agriculture, etc. And Omni, like a lot of green roof installers, is starting to move beyond these two definitions to systems that support a different array of plants at light weights. And for us specifically, we use our media to allow us to do something called a comprehensive green roof. And this is a roof that has the plant options of an intensive green roof, but at the weights of an extensive system. So this allows property owners, designers, and end users the full spectrum of plant options to address site-specific conditions and add critical programming to these landscapes. We early on found this to be critical to these system success as we built across the country and found projects facing radically different conditions. So projects in Minneapolis to Nashville, New York to San Francisco, Denver to Indianapolis, they all present unique site conditions. So having flexibility in our planting palette helps address those issues and got communities excited about the opportunities possible on the roofs. Now, this is not just exciting for people, but importantly, it's critical to the success of green roofs. Plants on green roofs are not just a top dressing to look good. They also are how the systems function and provide all these benefits. Their roots hold the media in place to meet wind uplift standards. The evapotranspirative nature of plants helps manage stormwater, air pollution, and urban heat island effect. And so if the plants aren't successful, you lose all the benefits of the green roof system. So having a system that supports really thriving plants in communities is really important to us and to the success of these systems. And to illustrate this, I always love starting with these same 3 slides whenever I talk to people about how important plants are. So this is a 3-inch deep system that's weight is 15 pounds per square foot, fully saturated. So that's the heaviest it gets after a rain event. And this is on the Keep Indianapolis Beautiful HQ in Indiana. And this is on Lake Michigan. It's the exact same depth, 3 inches, same weight, but in this case, they have a lawn system. And this one's by seed, but it could also be a sod system. And then this picture in Chicago was actually a project we did with some students who were interested in learning about how food production works in a city. And so again, 3 inches deep, and there's a cover crop down and then accent plants planted into it. What I love about these 3 photos is they're obviously 3 radically different typologies with different programming options, different maintenance options, but the build-up's the same. It's just the power of the plant selection that really drove how I was able to accomplish these different looks. Now, because this is an agritecture series, I was really excited to focus on food systems. So I'm going to show a couple different examples of food-based green roof systems and how they work to support all these different functions within the green roof. But I did want to note that these systems can be used for a wide variety of options for accent plants, sedum, native meadows, trees. They'll do beautifully in it. But we're going to focus on food for this talk here. So this is 1516 West Carroll. This is one of my favorite roofs and was the award winner for Best Commercial Green Roof in 2017. And this is the headquarters for the roof crop. And in just 3 to 8 inches of media, the roof produces 44 different crops and over 100 different varieties, including apples, potatoes, radishes, raspberries, and flowers. And so what the roof crop does is they're this fantastic full-service landscape and urban farm. And they offer these services to connect people to more sustainable food practices through the food and flowers they grow. And what they've really done is operate in this niche in the green roof market, which is addressing the issue of maintenance. So maintenance for green roofs is always a concern for owners. These systems are built to last for decades, but they're living systems, so someone has to take care of them. What the roof crop has done really well is fold in those maintenance concerns with a business opportunity. So they can take these green roofs and turn them into urban farms that are still providing all the functions of a green roof, the urban heat island amelioration, the stormwater management, supporting pollinators, but then they're also creating jobs and they're creating revenues. They do this from hosting events, supporting beehives and honey production, and to hyperlocal food networks. So these systems can be managed as either a traditional urban farm with row crops or more permaculture style polycultures, incorporating apple orchards or other perennial crops, providing options for tackling maintenance and other labor obligations. So you can see this roof in 1516. Each week during harvest season, they're picking lettuces, peppers, potatoes. They're picking on this roof, they're packaging on site, and they're serving it to nearby restaurants and customers. And so they're able to support several different types of food networks. Sometimes this is a roof that's on an apartment complex, and they're providing a CSA directly to the residents of that apartment complex from their own roof, or they're doing crop-specific production for nearby restaurants, or they're doing pop-up events for chefs. And it creates this ripple effect where you're getting all these new local business opportunities, all the while helping manage the maintenance of this green infrastructure and turning these green roofs into working landscapes that are providing all those benefits previously mentioned. This is another farming system, but this one's radically different. This is also an award winner for Best Extensive Green Roof in 2018, and this is Harvard Business School. This was a really fun project that we worked on with Recover Green Roofs, which is a fantastic green roof installer in Boston. There's a desire to replace a struggling green roof system with one that would both thrive functionally and also visually. They wanted it to look really good. And so they wanted to create a native meadow that could work within the weight restrictions of this project. So we worked with Recover and Harvard to create a seed mix whose plant design takes inspiration from the adjacent Charles River ecosystem. So this meadow includes milkweed, asters, rudbeckia, and other native perennials blended into a seed mix of quickly germinating cover crops. And it allowed this to have a highly biodiverse, highly visually pleasing meadow look. But the school sustainability team, which is this really fantastic group, really wanted to take this a step further and wanted to know how they incorporate further functionality into this green roof to drive specifically a connection with the student body, because that's really important too. How do we connect to people with these ecosystems, with these landscapes? So they incorporated passive farming, because they wanted to do a food component, but they weren't sure if they could really support full-time farming. They wanted to see what kind of passive food systems they could incorporate. So specifically, they looked at incorporating beehives, where they found a local provider who keeps beehives on the roof and gives them a portion of their harvest, as well as harvesting the radishes. So we use radishes as a nurse crop, and it's a great example of this kind of passive farming concept. Radishes were part of the meadow mix to work as a nurse crop to provide quick establishment and let the meadow progress into its kind of more completed, stable state. And then they did a one-time harvest of those radishes. So they weren't having to keep up with a lot of weeding or specific farm maintenance, but they were able to harvest over 400 pounds of radishes. And then the cafeteria turned those into coleslaw and kimchi and served them throughout the year. And what's really exciting about this, it adds a layer of engagement interaction that's really important for food systems and really important for green infrastructure. They have thousands of students and visitors who come through that roof and into that cafeteria every year. But a lot of them probably have no idea that there's a green roof on top of the building, much less that's producing food. But when they serve the radishes, they put up these placards, and people were learning about the fact that they were eating food that came off maybe 30 feet above their heads. So it created this interaction, this awareness about hyperlocal food production and an interest, which helps spur more investment in these types of projects, which is really important. And one final project I wanted to share that shows how you can use food in kind of creative ways to take these green infrastructure projects and really amplify their effect is this project we did with Studio Gang Architects. So this is a project where in the fall of 2015, we weren't able to get on to do the installation till late in the season. So this is in Chicago, it was getting cold, we were worried about establishing the plants. So we decided to use a cover crop, winter wheat, which we know works well in the Midwest, to stabilize the soils over the winter and to provide nurse crop for the native meadow that they eventually wanted. When we came back in the spring, we realized we had a wheat field on a rooftop in Chicago, in Bucktown. And we thought this is fantastic. And they were wonderful partners and allowed us to let it mature. And we decided that we would harvest this wheat with scissors so we wouldn't damage the understory and see what we could do with it. And so we worked with After School Matters program, and students came and helped harvest the wheat. And then they took this to the next level. They went, they threshed and winnowed the wheat. And it was absolutely incredible. One, because most people in cities have never thought about threshing or winnowing wheat. But these kids did a fantastic job. They took it into the warehouse. They beat the wheat with boards. They put drills with chains into buckets and spun them around to mimic threshing. Then they got the idea to dump the wheat on tables and to set fans to blow across them to separate the wheat from the chaff. And what they got then was an actual crop of ready-to-go wheat, which was super exciting. They then milled it with the help of a local Baker Miller Group, and they milled the product, and they taught the students about flour production, and they got over 60 pounds of flour from this one roof. They then took this flour and they used it to bake cookies. And the idea was to have a bake sale so they could both talk about their work and their program to kind of build up excitement about it. And it built up a lot of excitement when the mayor of Chicago, then Mayor Rahm Emanuel, came and talked to the students. And he was supposed to only be there for 30 minutes or so, but he ended up spending hours talking with the students, learning about this process, learning about the food. It was a really fun event. The students were fantastic, and it was just such a great story. What to me is so interesting about this is you can see here that after the wheat harvest, the prairie was allowed to fully establish. And now Studio Gang Architects roof supports native plants as originally intended, after a brief interlude as a wheat field that was producing cookies for humans. So now this rooftop wildflower meadow is producing native habitat and food for pollinators. That in itself is fantastic, but it's also a story about how you can make these projects more constructible. We had a timeline we were up against to meet because of winter. By incorporating wheat production into this operation, all we had to pay for was a bag of wheat, and then we were able to have this fantastic project with the students, finish the project on time, and have a stronger project because of it. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure sharing a couple of these stories that are kind of food-centric and really show the dynamism of green roofs and how you can incorporate multiple functions, get people excited about them to create crops, while at the same time still providing urban heat island mitigation, cleaning the air, stormwater management, and creating beautiful, beautiful landscapes. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jesse. I really appreciate that presentation. I think our viewers will really enjoy, the work you guys have done. And as somebody who lives in Chicago near some of those projects, I definitely appreciate the work you guys are doing. And as you were going through that, like it popped into my mind, a typical roof in America or anywhere around the world is gray and lifeless, and it is intended to do just the one purpose, which is protect the people from the elements inside. So it's really great to see you guys working on, all these unique solutions to bring, green life, something more positive and bringing more life and beauty into these cities, and helping, with jobs and with creating food and creating, flowers and plants. So thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
We really appreciate it. Glad you're doing better, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.